What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today we're gonna be doing another character breakdown, and I thought long and hard on this one, and eventually I just kind of wound up landing on a character who I read a lot of, but don't really ever talk about. And that is Marvel's Riri Williams, Ironheart. And we're gonna talk about her and a lot more right now. But first, let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click. Riri Williams first appeared in Invincible Iron Man Volume 3 number 7 in 2016, but didn't make her debut as Ironheart until Invincible Iron Man Volume 4 number 3 in 2017, almost a whole calendar year later, and was created by Brian Michael Bendis and Mike Deodato. Riri Williams grew up as a child prodigy, but her parents didn't know it. At age 5, she constantly got in trouble at school for acting out and having behavior issues, but turned out, after being evaluated by a child psychologist, Riri was in fact a super genius level kid who was just acting out because she felt unchallenged and knew she was smarter than everyone else. She wound up becoming an introvert, and like most kids who grow up as smart as she did, and it led to her hiding away, making her inventions. Something that eventually led to her getting a scholarship full ride to MIT at age 10. But 3 years later, during a random drive-by shooting, her stepfather Gary tried to get Riri and her best and really only friend Natalie to safety, only they were both killed right before Riri's eyes. Riri dealt with this the way just about anyone would. She couldn't. She even went as far as questioning why her friend died and not her. Why did she live when they both died? She wound up looking to heroes for the answer, and chief among them was Tony Stark, Iron Man. She wound up throwing herself into her inventions even more, deciding to challenge herself and recreating one of Iron Man's suits, using parts from his Mark 41 suit from 2012, a suit that was specifically designed to withstand outer space environments. Now, thanks to it being rather in vogue to shit on Ironheart, with many comic book YouTube channels making videos calling her a thief and a thug, it is true she did steal the parts she used to make her first Iron Man styled power armor, but she's not the only one to ever do this. In fact, Star-Lord killed everyone who could have become the next Star-Lord so that he could become Star-Lord instead, something he never would have become otherwise. Terry McGinnis, everyone's precious Batman Beyond, stole the prototype batsuit that Bruce Wayne created. Hell, Booster Gold stole every piece of equipment he has just to go back to the past and appear to be a badass. And yet no one makes videos calling them thieves and thugs. Calm down, people. Now, when it comes to powers, honestly, Riri Williams is kind of a difficult one to describe. I mean, basically, when it comes down to it, Riri has no actual superpowers, but she was born with a ridiculously high IQ, as I mentioned earlier. She is literally a super genius. She is a skilled engineer and inventor, working with her stepfather Gary on cars and automotive repairs at a very young age, and graduating up to high-tech inventions as she got older, and as a result of this, being able to perfectly recreate Iron Man's own armor, she can pretty much do everything that Iron Man can, more or less. Her armor gives her the ability to fly, it grants her super strength and durability, and she's also able to use the same repulsor blast that Iron Man uses. And also, like Stark's own armor, it also uses nanotechnology. Her armor can even appear on her at will. But beyond that, just imagine whatever Iron Man can do, and Ironheart can very likely do it too. Despite being a student of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, she actually calls Chicago home. Interesting little tidbit most people don't know about Riri Williams is that when Brian Michael Bendis created Riri Williams, he did so with his 2 adopted daughters in mind. just like he did when he was creating Miles Morales. He wanted them to have heroes that looked like them that they could look up to. It's something that even he was able to recognize is not really a thing in Marvel Comics. Really, in Marvel or DC Comics up until recently. Many often make the mistake of accusing Riri of taking Iron Man's place. And by taking his place, I mean taking his mantle, his actual name, which is technically not true. While characters like Jane Foster and Falcon did actually take on the official mantle of their predecessors, Riri did not want to be called Iron Man, or Iron Woman, or Iron Girl, or even Iron Chick, or anything gender-based. Hence, Ironheart. Speaking of her name, some comics readers who traffic in the Japanese porn sector, and I'm not kink shaming here, but it's just facts, probably noticed that there was a superhero porn parody that predates Riri Williams' creation that is also called Ironheart. A Japanese Iron Man porn parody that was made in 2014. It's also the title of a 1992 Bolo Young film, but that is neither here nor there. She recently created an AI for her new armor in the same vein as Stark's Jarvis or Friday in the MCU, one modeled and named after her deceased best friend, Natalie, with Natalie standing for Neuro-Autonomous Technical Assistant and Laboratory Intelligence Entity. She's basically Friday, but with a lot more seasoning. Super sassy and probably a standout character in her own right in the Ironheart comic. Riri Williams is an Iron Man fangirl. She has detailed knowledge of every suit Stark has ever made and knows them on sight and by name, including the Silver Centurion armor and the fact that it was a present to Rhodey originally but had to be used to take down Obadiah Stane instead. Riri's stepfather is not the first person that her mother Ronnie has lost to gun violence. She also lost Riri's biological father to gun violence as well. And despite losing almost everyone she loves in this fashion, she still supports her daughter being a hero. She doesn't love it, but all she asks is that she do the right thing, stay safe, and keep her grades up. Ronnie also serves as the single parent in the story who is now having to take on the role of both mother and father in this scenario. If you are a black or brown person, you have probably met, known, or been raised by a woman just like Ronnie. She's really cool, laid back. She even watches horror movies and sci-fi movies with Riri, and is just an all-around amazing person. She reminds me a lot of my own mother, especially in the way that she talks. Little known fact, Riri Williams is a fan of the hip-hop group A Tribe Called Quest. That said, Jay-Z is also not in her top 5 MCs of all time, and I am inclined to agree. Other little known fact is that she does enjoy hot chips. Some people tend to forget about this because of all the convolutedness of Civil War II, but Riri Williams does side with Iron Man during the Civil War II conflict. Not really a huge surprise considering the fact that Tony Stark became a surrogate father to Riri Williams. Now, despite both being created by Brian Michael Bendis, being teammates on the Champions, and being two of the few characters of color with their own series, at least up to this point, Riri Williams and Miles Morales don't really get along particularly well. But they do share a very strong rivalry that sometimes can come off as friendship. And even more recently in the Eve L. Ewing run of Ironheart, they almost seem to evolve that relationship into more of a brother-sister style of relationship where they constantly rib on each other. Riri Williams actually has a very strong admiration for real-life astronaut Mae Jemison, the first black woman to travel in space, during her time working aboard the space shuttle Endeavour. Speaking of space, her favorite version of Star Trek is Deep Space Nine because she's a woman of culture and Benjamin Sisko is that dude. She's really into cosplay as well and even made a visor to be Geordie LaForge, a character played by LeVar Burton of Reading Rainbow fame. In the comic Infinity Countdown Champions #2, the entire team was demoralized by the Mad Titan Thanos, specifically Ironheart, who had a near-death experience at the hands of Thanos. He destroyed her original Ironheart suit, leading to her being completely shell-shocked and her having to recreate the armor later with Viv Vision's help. Something people tend to overlook in this is that Riri decided to model it after how Chitauri armor works, with all of its, many sliding pieces. Another tidbit related to this is the fact that people tend to forget that this was a moment that led to her developing PTSD and changing how she approaches being a hero, something she even dealt with as recently as her standalone series under Eve L. Ewing's penmanship. Speaking of Riri Williams and Viv Vision, in Champions number 27, Viv Vision revealed she had a crush on Riri Williams, one Riri did not reciprocate, leading to some awkwardness between them later on. Some people don't know this, but Riri Williams' original appearance was based on actress Sky Jackson, who some of you may remember as The Rock's daughter in G.I. Joe Retaliation, and she also had reoccurring roles on shows like Jessie and Austin and Ally. And also, oddly enough, Sky Jackson has also played Glory Grant in Marvel Rising Initiation, Marvel Rising Chasing Ghost, and Marvel Rising Battle of the Bands. After leaving the Champions, Riri Williams revealed that she preferred to work alone because being alone is the best way to make sure you don't let anyone down. Also kind of doubling down on the whole moniker of her name being Ironheart. Spider-Man frenemy Clash once called her Barbie Dreamhouse Iron Man, something she was referred to by many of her actual real-life detractors. In Invincible Iron Man number 11, we learned that Riri Williams' first encounter with Iron Man was not when he came to recruit her to become Ironheart, but in fact that he first met her during Secret Invasion, where he saved her and her stepfather from a Skrull attack. This is actually something that she's never told Tony because, as far as she's concerned, while it may have been something special to her, he does this sort of thing all the time and he probably doesn't even remember. Riri Williams is no stranger to being a trailblazer in the world of comics, and that made her comic a shoo-in to introduce your casual comics reader to another trailblazer in the real world, Ariel Johnson, who featured on a variant edition cover of Invincible Iron Man number 1, meeting Riri Williams. Now, for those who don't know who Ariel Johnson is, she is the first Black woman to own a comic book shop on the East Coast. Some of you, especially those of you who live in the North Philadelphia area, you are probably very familiar with Amalgam Comics and Coffee House, the comic book shop that Ariel Johnson owns. Riri was Queen of Latveria for all of 2 seconds after kicking Lucia von Bardas to the curb, but gave up the title after restoring peace to the land so that Latveria could elect its own governing body. Now, kind of getting into her media appearances, Riri Williams has made an appearance in the 44-minute special Marvel Rising, Heart of Iron, voiced by actress Sophia Wiley, who some of you may remember as a contestant on America's Got Talent, and she's also been on shows like Andy Mack and the more recently released Disney Plus series High School Musical, the series. And in this short film, where this is kind of more of an origin story, she doesn't truly become Ironheart until the final minutes of the show. She's also been the focus of a short film developed by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's admission department in 2017, which is really appropriate considering that in the comics, Riri Williams does in fact attend MIT. This short mostly showed a day in the life of Riri Williams, who was played by actual MIT student Ayomide F, and eventually makes her Ironheart armor in her own dorm. Riri's appeared in several video games, namely of the mobile variety, games like Marvel Puzzle Quest, which marks her video game debut, and then later in Marvel Future Fight. And after that, she's appeared in Marvel Avengers Academy, voiced by actress Danny Chambers. She also shows up in LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2 via the Champions DLC. Now, knowing that many new characters like Ms. Marvel are getting their own series on Disney Plus with future introductions into the MCU being a thing as well, it's really no surprise that Ironheart has been long rumored for a movie or TV series appearance. Leaked scripts and LinkedIn job listings have popped up all over the place in the last few years, with even MCU actors Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland calling for her to be introduced into the MCU themselves. That said, who would I pick to play her in the MCU? And this one was a bit of a tough one for me. Man, I actually wrestled with this one a lot. And you know what? At first, I was kind of thinking, well, you know, Sophia Wiley already has played the character in the Marvel Rising short. And I was like, I mean, she's already there. She's already clearly got the chops to do this. And she does play a very convincing Ironheart in a voice acting role. So I thought, man, maybe I'd go with that one. And then I thought about other people. I thought about several other young actresses that I felt could pull this off. But the one I'm actually going to go with, it's actually a person who I've already mentioned, which I think is the first time I've ever done this in one of these videos. But I'm going to choose Sky Jackson. Sky Jackson actually has about the height and frame. She actually kind of has this eternal childlike appearance. So even though I think she is roughly 17 at the time of the making of this video, she could still convincingly play a 15-year-old girl. Not only that, she already has an in with Disney, having worked on the series Bunked for a few years. So she's already kind of bought in with the Disney culture. She could just walk right in the door and probably have the gig. And not only that, she's a pretty good actress. I think she could actually play a character like Riri Williams, someone who can bring a little sass, bring a little intelligence, and bring some seasoning to the role. And I think it could really work. Now, that said, I know that Riri Williams is a very divisive character. I know a lot of people don't like her. I know a lot of people don't care for her as a character. And you know what? I think that's fine. I joke about this all the time, but literally, my Google keyboard, without fail, every time I have nothing to say, will always suggest the sentence, "It takes different strokes to move the world." So there you have it. That's my take on that. I love Riri Williams. I think she's a great character. I actually really kind of connected with her character, kind of feeling like I kind of understood where she came from. And that was even regardless of the fact that Brian Michael Bendis was writing her. I felt like he did as good a job as he could as a non-person of color, I think could do, writing a character who is a person of color. I think that Eve L. Ewing elevated the character and brought her to where she needed to be. But that said, her series has ended. And where the character goes from there, I have no idea. But I will say, I do highly advise that whether or not you are a fan of Ironheart, I highly advise that you read the Eve L. Ewing run on Ironheart. I believe it's 12 issues. I think the 12th issue is coming out sometime within a month of this video's release. And so far, the series has been lights out. It reads exactly the way I felt the original series under Bendis should have read. Eve L. Ewing brought a level of legitimacy to the character that I think wasn't there before. And I don't even think that the Bendis stuff was bad. I just think that the character wasn't written as well as she could have been. And I recommend reading the Champions. I think whether it's the Mark Waid run or the Jim Zub run, I think both are fantastic, and they do showcase Riri Williams in some pretty good light. Anyways, let me know what you think about the character of Ironheart, for better or worse. Anyways, sound off in the comments. So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in a buck, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra!